I've hurt my ankle, so I went to A&E, and they did an x-ray, but they said it was just a sprain. Okay, so how do they actually know this? Without an x-ray, how do they fully understand that it is actually just a sprain, there isn't anything more severe going on, or even more importantly, how significant that sprain is? Is it a rupture? Is there ligament damage? Is there other issues, bone bruising or whatever? So the problem we have is that without certain investigatory elements, we don't necessarily know. Now that doesn't mean you should be x-raying everybody and so on. In fact, there is actually information out there with the Ottawa ankle rules, which shows a way of determining the likelihood of a risk factor to a fracture and therefore being able to do that to work out whether you should x-ray them or not. But what we're looking at here today is actually looking at how accurate a diagnosis, not an x-ray, but just doing your normal orthopedic testings, how accurate that is at determining the extent of an injury with an ankle sprain in the time frame from when the ankle sprain occurred. So obviously in the earlier point, when it's really swollen, really painful, really limited, versus a little bit later on. And it's interesting what they found here, because obviously the first thing that people might do in the elite sport world is to immediately assess that ankle and immediately look at it and go, oh yes, it looks all right, or oh yes, it looks really bad, or whatever. And is this correct? Is this the right point to test it with accuracy? So this research looked at doing a delayed assessment with ankle sprain. They looked at 4 to 5 days after actually spraining your ankle. And what they found is it was much more accurate with determining the diagnosis of the condition at this point versus up to 48 hours after the injury. So obviously after the 48-hour window, your inflammation's dying down a little bit, the swelling might be dying down a little bit, the pain's dying down a little bit. So you're less guarded, you're able to test the structures a little bit better. Whereas initially the pain's so severe, the swelling's so severe, you might get a bit of a negative result on your testing, but it might actually not be true. There might be a rupture under there, but you're just so guarded you can't actually get the movement there and think, there's no rupture, and so on. So it's not actually the best time to assess it. Now this doesn't mean that you shouldn't seek attention until you get to 4 to 5 days, because it's not all about diagnosis. We do know if you've hurt your ankle, there's swelling, there's pain, there's restriction, there's wasting going to occur. These are really important things, irrespective of how bad the injury is, as to get onto things and start to do things in a good way, provided you know there's no bony injury and fracture, of course. So you should still consult treatment and still actually get these things managed in the correct ways in the first few days. But in terms of forming an accurate diagnosis, that's probably going to come a bit later. It doesn't need to be diagnosed on the very first day. It could be treated just to dampen down the pain, dampen down the swelling, a bit of muscle stim maybe to get the muscles working just because they're going to be inhibited, because you don't want to lose muscle if you can help it. The right advice, the right management in that first stint, then you can reassess, then you can work out with some more accuracy at 4 or 5 days down the line, is this grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, rupture, whatever, what's going on, and you'll have a better idea. So it's really interesting. It shows you shouldn't always put all your eggs in one basket and think this is what it is straight off the bat, we know what's going on. You might not know until a few days later once that guarding and that super high level of response has died down. But that's it for today, and I'll see you next time.